Hey y'all, Dustin here. Well, week 2 of the college football season is now officially in the books, and the week 2 AP poll has been released, so I figured that I would make a quick video kind of talking about it. Again, I'm not going to discuss, I said that like I was foreign. I am not going to discuss every single poll position, just the ones that I find the most interesting and kind of compare it with mine. If you want to look down in the description underneath this video is the complete top 25. There's a little slash mark, or I guess as you see it, a slash mark. And mine is going to be beside that. So it's going to say 1 Alabama/Alabama. It's because me and the AP poll both have Alabama ranked number 1. So that way you can kind of see the full list and yell at me appropriately. And I just want to let you know that I actually made my AP poll, as I do every week, before the actual AP poll came out. So the results that you're about to see, totally not influenced by the AP poll. If we happen to be in the same general idea, it's just me and the football writers. We're all kind of thinking the same thing. But I do have a few teams in that they don't, and vice versa. So just want to put that out there. I don't want this video to be too long because I promised you last week that they weren't going to be that long. So without further ado, let's get right into it. At number 3, they have Ohio State, which is fine. I think they're slotted there based on their preseason polling, which is not something I'm a big fan of. I prefer instead that we put teams in places based on their performance and who they've played. Ohio State plays Oklahoma this weekend. That could move them up to number 3. In my poll right now, I have the Houston Cougars at number 3. They beat number 3 Oklahoma at the time, and Oklahoma still, I think, what are they right now? They're 14th. So they're still hovering around the top 15. But let me ask you this. What happens if Oklahoma wins? What do they do with Houston? Do they move Houston up to number 3 since they beat an Oklahoma team technically on a neutral site that beat what they consider to be number 3 Ohio State? I assume Oklahoma will be right back in the top 10. Michigan plays Colorado, which is going to be a much improved Buffalo's team. But are they a big enough and good enough team to justify keeping Michigan ahead of Houston? I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see what the pollsters do. They have Clemson at number 5. I have a huge problem with this. This is the definition of, we had a preseason poll that we are sticking to no matter what, within reason, and results on the field be damned. This is the old way. Wow, I said that weird. This is the old way of thinking. This kind of idea needs to stop. You have Clemson ranked number 5. You have Houston ranked number 6. If the Clemson team that played against Auburn played against the Houston team that played against Oklahoma, who wins? I think most of us would probably say Houston, other than maybe Dabo Swinney. I think the rest of us would pretty much say Houston. So if you already have them ranked 5th, and you have Houston would probably beat Clemson at this moment anyway, based on the way they've been playing, how can you justify Clemson staying in the top 5? Honestly, they barely beat an Auburn team that most of us don't think is very good, at least based on recent success. They beat a tough Troy team, but you would think Clemson would have no problem getting rid of Troy, especially at home. I mean, Death Valley's pretty intense. So, personally, I have Clemson ranked 13th, 1 spot ahead of Georgia. I thought they were both equally embarrassing. Even though Georgia nearly got beat, they were trailing in the second half to FCS foe Nicholls, formerly Nicholls State. I think Clemson played almost just as poorly, and that's not to discredit Troy. It's the amount of talent that Clemson has, especially offensively. Clemson's defense, for the most part, played fairly well until the end, when they turned into kind of a bend but don't break mentality. That Clemson offense is led on quarterback by somebody that people are saying is the number 1 draft pick in the 2017 draft, is a guy who should win the Heisman. He's the front runner preseason to win the Heisman. A really good running back in Wayne Gallman. Arguably, maybe not, but probably the number 1 receiving core in the country. Why are you struggling offensively against Troy? Auburn, you get a little bit of a pass, a little bit of a benefit of doubt. Against Troy, you don't. I have them down to 13. The AP poll, until they play Louisville on October 1st, I'm not giving Clemson any credit unless they come out and just destroy Georgia Tech. The AP poll has Texas at number 11. I actually have them in the top 10 because if you look at teams like Wisconsin, Texas A&M, Louisville even, other teams that they have right there at the top 10, I think they're better wins than any of those 3 wins. I think they're better than A&M's win over UCLA. I think they're better than Wisconsin's win over LSU at Lambeau in a glorified home game. Texas beat a team that, were it not for a last-second field goal against Stanford, would have been in the playoff last year. They beat them in a thrilling fashion. Their quarterback looked amazing. I have Texas at number 8 in my poll. They're in the Big 12, which is going to be tough for all those teams, especially Kansas. It's going to be tough for every team in the Big 12, so there's certainly room for me to be wrong and for them to fall later on in the season and end up 8-4. That's perfectly plausible, but based on what I've seen on the field so far this year, I have Texas at number 8. They have them at number 11. What I find very interesting is that, one, Georgia fell as far as they did, and Tennessee last week, they fell as far as they did without losing. What's most interesting is they've moved Oklahoma ahead of Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas A&M, 3 undefeated SEC teams, even though Oklahoma State, even though Oklahoma has a loss, which is interesting because usually they penalize teams kind of early for losses. They'll drop them back a little bit, leave some undefeated teams, and then kind of work them up throughout the season. It's interesting that they're ahead of 3 undefeated SEC teams. I don't know. I think that says a lot about the SEC right now. They're not as good as they have been in previous years. They have Ole Miss at number 19. I actually have the Rebels at 17, but I'll be very interested to see this week what Ole Miss does if they beat Alabama. Do they go up into the top 10? How far does Alabama fall? Because if Alabama doesn't fall out of the top 10, the rest of the top 10 wins, who are you going to move out in order to put Ole Miss in there, especially after they lost to Florida State in the way they did, being up 28-6 and letting the Seminoles come back? I don't know. That'll be curious to watch. I have Pittsburgh and Arizona State in my top 25. I have Pitt at 22 and Arizona State at 24. I thought that matchup between Penn State and Pittsburgh was a game between 2 very good teams. Not 2 great teams necessarily. I certainly think Pitt is now the favorite to win the ACC Coastal, and I think Penn State could certainly make some noise in the Big Ten, especially more than they have under Franklin's tenure so far. As for Arizona State, boy, that passing game is lethal. Watching them watching the highlights the next day of them outscoring Texas Tech the way they did, I watched until halftime. They were up 37-34, and I knew I was missing a great game when I fell asleep. But it was like 1 in the morning, so I was very sleepy. But yeah, I think both of those teams deserve to be in the top 25 after their wins last week. The question is, can they build on that success this week, especially Pitt, who travels to Stillwater? Speaking of Stillwater, yes, I dropped Oklahoma State out of my top 25, even though they should have beaten Central Michigan, and that last place should not have counted. I don't want this to be disrespectful to Central Michigan because they played a hell of a game, and they held with Oklahoma State. They actually outpassed Oklahoma State during the game. But the talent that's supposed to be at Oklahoma State and the talent that's supposed to be at Central Michigan, there's not as much discrepancy as there should be. So even with a win, I probably would have dropped Oklahoma State out of the top 25. Just like Texas can build their way back up or drop down, Oklahoma State's in the Big 12, which seems to be pretty wide open, with TCU and Baylor looking weird at times. Oklahoma already has a loss. I certainly think the Big 12 is up for grabs, and if Oklahoma State runs table in the Big 12, we don't even have a discussion here. They're definitely at least in the top 10, if not in the playoff discussion at the end of the year. Other teams that just missed the cut, Miami, you didn't do anything wrong. I just kept you out. I'll tell you this. You beat App State, you're in my top 25. Utah, Tough game against BYU. You had 6 turnovers. So you have to clean up your act if you want to get in the top 25. Although you won, but you won because of a 2-point conversion that didn't need to be played, was missed. If BYU makes that 2-point conversion, you lose the game. So I just kept you out. But you're on the bubble. Florida and North Carolina are 2 more teams that just missed the cut. You didn't really do anything wrong. You just, I don't know. It didn't impress me. So, it's Kentucky and Illinois. The last team that just barely missed it is TCU. They had a tough loss to Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a very good team. Probably, how's this for a little bit of a prediction? Probably the second best team in the West behind Alabama. And they may beat Alabama. They get them in Fayetteville. But you couple that with, they got down 20-7 to Arkansas at the end of the third quarter. They allowed 41 points to San Diego State, which their nickname is the Jackrabbits, but they're not really that fast. TCU should be able to catch them easier than that. I dropped you out. Sorry, I know you were like 15 last week. I dropped you out. But I was happy to know that the AP poll did that as well. All right, guys, just want to make a quick video talking about a few teams and a few things to kind of look forward to in next week's polling, which will be very interesting as the season starts to really take shape for the first time. Again, if you want to see my complete AP Top 25, look down in the description. The real AP Top 25 will be first, a slash, and then the team that I picked will be there next. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below letting me know what you think of both the real AP and my AP poll. What teams did I miss on? What teams should I be looking out for? And should any of those bubble teams I mentioned actually be in the top 25? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, guys, as always, make sure to hit the thumbs up button to give me a like. Every single one of those counts. I'm very small YouTuber. If you want to see more college football content coming up from me, of which I have a lot coming up, make sure to hit the red subscribe button down below. That way you get little notifications whenever I put out a video. That way you don't miss any. Seriously, it's college football season, so, let's talk college football. One last time, I want to thank you guys for watching. I've over 50 subscribers, which is crazy because I doubled in like a week, and that is all thanks to you. So thank you very much. And as always, until next time. So it's going to say 1 Alabama/Alabama. It's because me and the AP poll both have Alabama ranked number 1. So that way you can kind of see the full list and yell at me appropriately. And I just want to let you know that I actually made my AP poll, as I do every week, before the actual AP poll came out. So, hey y'all, Dustin here. Well, week 2 of the college football season is now officially in the books, and the week 2 AP poll has been released. So I figured that I would make a quick video kind of talking about it. Again, I'm not going to discuss, I said that like I was foreign. I don't want this video to be too long because I promised you last week that they weren't going to be that long. So without further ado, let's get right into it. At number 3, they have Ohio State, which is fine. I think they're slotted there based on their preseason polling, so the results that you're about to see, totally not influenced by the AP poll. If we happen to be in the same general idea, it's just me and the football writers, we're all kind of thinking the same thing. But I do have a few teams in that they don't, and vice versa. So just want to put that out there. I'm going to discuss every single poll position, just the ones that I find the most interesting, and kind of compare it with mine. If you want to look down in the description underneath this video is the complete top 25. There's a little slash mark, or I guess as you see it, a slash mark. And mine is going to be beside